think it is to the knowledge of everyone that our core focus areas is rural and urban settlements for question number 1, then economic geography of South Africa for question number 2, then question number 3 is geographical skills and techniques, which is map work. So without wasting much time, we are going to go through the questions and we are going to discuss and point out and highlight on the possible responses to the given questions. Right, so we are taking you to the first question, which is a question on rural and urban settlement. Right, the first question is a matching column question, saying question number 1.11. Settlements are classified as rural based on what is the criteria that is used to classify a settlement as rural. The main geographical reasoning that we use for the classification of the settlement is the number of functions. So for us to classify a settlement as a rural, we check on the number of functions provided by that particular settlement. So is a number of settlements, number of functions rather. Right. We understand that the functions are fewer for a rural settlement and mainly the functions are primary, while we have many functions for urban settlements. Right, number 1.12, the question is saying actual physical position. The actual physical position, we are looking at where exactly a settlement is located in terms of the geographical space that is occupied by a particular settlement. What do we call that? The actual space is called the site of a settlement. Right, then the next question is saying loose grouping of farmsteads is called a loose grouping of farmsteads. That is a hamlet. A loose grouping of farmsteads is called a hamlet. That's the second largest classification of rural settlements before we go to a village. Remember, it's an isolated farmstead, which is the smallest. Then we go to a hamlet, which is a loose grouping of farmsteads. Then we go to a village, which is the biggest classification of rural settlements. Then we move on to number 1.14. A dash has mostly rural functions and some urban functions. Mostly rural functions and some urban functions, that is a village. We might also tend to find that we have some typical functions in a rural village, which are typically found also as part of urban functions. For example, we might find a primary school in a village. It is also found in an urban area. Right, then we move on to question number 1.15. The pattern of the settlement below is what pattern is there. Remember, when we're looking at pattern, it's either it's nucleated or it's dispersed. Nuclear in the sense that households are close to each other, and dispersed settlement meaning that they are in isolation, one on its own away from each other. So if we look at our examiner's sketch there, we can see that the scale is 1:30,000. Which means that for every 1 centimeter that we measure for that particular sketch, the actual ground distance will be 300 meters or 0.3 kilometers. So if we check those settlements there, they are away from each other. They are dispersed. Right, number 116, the sketch below depicts a dash settlement. Is it a wet point or a dry point? Remember, a wet point is located in such a way that we can easily access water. Water is a scarce resource, and we need to locate as close to the water source as is possible. Then a dry point, there's risk of flooding in the area. Hence, we must settle at the most safest place in terms of the flood line, above the flood line. So this one here, if we check, our settlement is located there and there and there, and we are seeing that the river is just around the area. And if we see our contour lines, the first contour line to either side of the settlement is at 60 meters, which means this settlement are located in a low-lying area, just in the river flood plain. Why is the settlement located there? Is because water is a scarce resource they need to access. So it's a wet point settlement. Right. The shape of the settlement below, what shape is that? Is it linear or round? We are seeing that the settlement is developing along the river. So it becomes a linear, it's in a line form along the river. Right, we move on to the next question. Question number 1.2. We are looking at multiple choice options. The first question is saying a dash, is it a trade and transport town or city, is shown in the photograph. If we try to analyze our photograph, you can see that this is more or less a port town. There is evidence that this is a port town because you can see there is water on this extreme end here. So that is most likely to be a break of bulk point where there is change in modes of transport, either from road to a water transport or from the sea transport to rail. So it becomes a break of bulk point. 122 Plettenberg Bay in the photograph, as you can see there, below is classified as A or N urban settlement, and its dominant economic function is right. If we check there, the location of Plettenberg is located in between the areas of the Tsitsmaga Mountain. It's located around the areas of the Tsitsmaga Mountain, and the main activity that happens there is ultimately tourism activities, like what you can see there is mainly tourism activities that do happen there. So basically that qualifies it being located in a throughway of the Tsitsmaga Mountain. Then it qualifies to be a gateway town, and it is also typically a tourism mining, tourism, not a mining town. So our correct response, if we can check those two, we can safely say that our response is A. 123 says a dash provides mostly low order goods and services to the surrounding rural population. Which one provides low order? According to the urban hierarchy, we understand that on the hierarchy, we have the one at the bottom is the one that provides low order, and the hierarchy goes up. We get more higher order products and services as we go up the hierarchy. So the first one, we find a town here before we get to a city. So for this reason, we are saying the town is the one at the bottom of the hierarchy. It's the one responsible for the provision of low order goods, and people are willing to travel for a shorter distance to get to a town to acquire basic necessities, which are low order goods. So it's a town. 124 dash is the maximum distance that people will travel to buy goods or obtain services. Right, basically, if you're looking at those ideas, we tend to find that our correct response is the range. The range of goods is the distance that people are prepared to travel. I think you understand the sphere of influence, how it differs from the threshold population. The sphere of influence basically will be looking at where the business draws its customers, that's the sphere of influence. And the threshold population, we're looking at the minimum number of people required to support a service and make it viable or profitable. So the correct response is a range. The range of goods is the one which is correct. Right, dash refers to the uncontrolled growth of urban areas. Uncontrolled growth, in other words, they are saying, is shapeless growth, or we can say it's formless, does not have a specific format. The urban area just grows anyhow. That is what you call urban sprawl. If an urban area is sprawling, it is developing, it is growing in an uncontrolled way. Right. Then 126, it says the cartoon below depicts the negative impacts of, let's analyze the cartoon. We can see that this is a representation of the buildings and these are trees. We are seeing a building which is portrayed to be consuming the trees. So a building is actually eating up the trees, like what you are seeing, these trees being eaten out by this building here. What scenario is being depicted here? It means the built up area is advancing towards an area which is naturally vegetated. So that is typical example of urban expansion. The physical growth of urban areas. The urban area is growing up and is eating up into the natural environment. The buildings as portrayed there, they are encroaching into an area which was once previously a rural or a farmland. Then number 127, Dash is a process whereby an increasing percentage of a country's population lives in urban rather than rural areas, and increasing numbers of percentages of people living in urban areas for a particular country. That is urbanization. Right, we'll move on to the next question, number 128. Number 128 is saying, refer the table below based on the level of and rate of urbanization in South Africa. In 2022, and the rate in percentage of urbanization in 2024 is, we're supposed to figure out this. We're supposed to calculate this. How are we going to calculate that? For us to get the rate, we get it by subtracting the level here. The change in the level gives us the rate. So we are saying, for us to get this particular rate here for 2022, we are saying it's unknown X. And that rate, if you get a difference from 2021 was 67.85. The unknown for 2022 minus the rate for 2021, it must give us the percentage for that particular year. How much has it increased? It has increased by 0.49. The rate is 0.49. So calculating this, it is going to give us X is equal to 0.49. We add 67.85. So if we do that, it will ultimately give us 68.34. So 68.34, that is how we get this. And we also calculate for this, the rate. We get the rate also as 0.47. So our correct response is item 1 and item 4, which is B. Right, refer to the graph below showing the percentage of rural population in South Africa from 2017 to 2024 and the extract on land restitution. Right, what is it saying here? We're not going to go through the case. It says the Molotele Citrus Fruit Farm showcasing the success of a land restitution program in Limpopo. Right, that doesn't matter much. We want to go and answer the questions. Right, according to the graph, state the rural population percentage of South Africa for 2024. We just have to go to the graph and look at 2024. We see our 2024 is here. So for 2024, we just want to figure out how much it was in that particular year. So you get your percentage there. All these figures are in percentages. So we are saying the rural population in South Africa in 20 is portrayed as 31.18 in 2024. That's the percentage. Then give the general trend of the population, of the rural population percentages as depicted in 2017 and 2024. From 2017, we are seeing that in 2017 it was 34.66, and in 2024 it's now 31.18. What is the trend? A trend can either be a decrease or an increase. So if we look at this trend here, it's a downward. As time is progressing, the figures are going down. So the trend is decreasing. The figures are decreasing. That's the trend from between 2017 and 2024. The trend is decreasing. Explain the social impact that the general trend, question 132, will have on rural community. Social impact. We are looking at a problem here. This is question number 1.33. I'll just try to indicate here. We're on question number 1.33. We want to look at the social impacts of which problem of a decline. We have seen the trend in rural population. How is it going to impact on the population in terms of social aspects, in terms of the way of life of people in the rural areas? How are they going to be impacted if the numbers are declining in the rural areas? So we look at typical issues like aging population. Where do we get the problem of aging population? Because of this instance, we have the youth migrating or the economically active. They migrate, leaving behind the elderly. So at the end, we have more of elderly people in the rural areas because they cannot migrate, because the main reason why people are living in the rural areas is they are trying to find economic opportunities in the urban areas. So they are left behind. The aged people are left behind in the rural area. So the population structure becomes imbalanced. We have more of the aging population in the rural areas, while the economically active have moved out of the rural areas to try and find fortunes in the urban areas. Then you can also look at services, loss of services in the rural areas. Services are lost. For example, we have schools closing or clinics closing. Remember, we talked about the aspect of threshold population. When a service, for it to be functional, it needs to maintain a minimum number of people, of which if it fails to get that minimum to support it, its viability is threatened, and hence it is going to close down. So at the end, we have typical problems of our service being lost, service provision being lost. We can also talk of aspects like in the rural areas, increased poverty. How does poverty come into play? We are looking at the aged and the very young. They cannot effectively fend for themselves. They cannot effectively farm the lands to produce enough for themselves. At the end, they will live in poverty. So it's a typical problem that can affect the society in the rural areas. And also, you can talk of the development of the ghost towns, abandoned buildings in the rural areas, which gives an image of rapid rural urban migration, and hence abandonment of buildings and activities in the rural areas. And also you can look at other aspects like community fragmentation. The community becomes fragmented. It becomes divided, which has got a negative implication on cohesion and family building. Cohesion is lost. As a result of the decline in the population, we tend to find that also families will be split, and also the community at large will also be split, which gives a negative implication on the society at large. Families are splitting as people move to rural areas. The cohesion within family and the cohesion within community is also lost in the process. So those are some of the ideas that you can also mention, or you can also look at other aspects like skills drain. The rural community can also lose socially by losing skilled people going out of the rural areas and trying to find a fortune in the urban areas. So it gives skills drain from the rural areas. The rural areas become drained of the the relevant skills that might be helping in the upliftment of the societies in the rural areas. Right, then we take it the next question. Refer to the extract on land restitution. What is land restitution? That's the question. What is land restitution? Right. We are going to define it in very simple terms. We don't want to complicate life. That is question number 1.3.4. I'm just going to highlight how the idea basically. 134. Because basically what you need to do in defining concepts, address the basic idea of the concept. We cannot define the concept the same as it is portrayed in the textbook or as it is presented on whichever source you use to revise and to study. So, but you must have the basic idea of what restitution is about. So you can say returning, the process of the returning of land to the rightful owners. What would have happened to this land? This land would have been unjustifiably taken, or those families would have been unjustifiably dispossessed of their land. There would have been unjustified dispossession of land. So we want to return the land to the rightful owners. That is restitution. I think you can understand the ideas of land reform, where we look at land redistribution and we look at land restitution as aspects of land reform or as instruments of land reform. So restitute is to give back. That's the idea of restitution. We move on to the next question. The next question is saying, according to the extract, which option or model of land restitution applied to the Moletele community? Which option applied? Let's look. It says, Moletele community opted to take their land back, and this has resulted in a successful land restitution program. They've opted to take their land back, and this has resulted in the right. So basically, we are seeing that there is the process of taking back their land as a model of land restitution. We call it that model there, where people are taking back their land. Basically, we can call it restoration. Restoration of original land. Restoration of original land. That's the model that they they are actually adopted there. They had to restore their original, the very same land that was taken is the one that they had to claim back. So it's restoration of original land. Then suggests strategies that can be implemented after land restitution has taken place to reduce rural depopulation. We want to reduce the trend of rural depopulation after land restitution. I think this is not a general question. We are understanding that there is a measure that has been put in place. There has been land restitution, but there is something that must be done to reduce rural depopulation after the process of land restitution, which means that land restitution must come with a full package to support its success so that we solve the problem, the geographical problem of rural depopulation. So what must we do? Let's highlight question number 1.3.6. Right. The issue here, once we give the farmers land, does not mean that we have solved the problem. There is additional effort to be done to ensure that the land restitution process reaps positive results and retain people in the rural areas. So we can talk of aspects like farmer training, training of farmers, or we can talk of skills development for the farmer. We cannot just give land to someone and then ignore them. The government needs to take an initiative to train those farmers so that they've got the right skill and the right knowledge on how to partake agricultural activities which are profitable and productive for them so that they can stay in the rural areas profitably. And also we can look at the government trying to offer financial support. Besides offering knowledge and skills, we also need to equip the farmers with financial support so that they can get whatever equipment they need to use and also inputs to use in the production process so that farming becomes viable and it retains people in the rural areas. Or we can also look at some irrigation initiatives. We understand that because of the issue of global warming and climate change, most of the places in South Africa, they are now receiving unreliable rainfall. So for that reason, there's also need maybe to implement some initiatives in agriculture to make sure that agriculture is profitable for the rural farmer and is sustainable and it retains people in the rural areas. Or we can also look at other aspects like developing infrastructure development in the area to enhance, to ensure that the farmers do viable agriculture. They need the different sets of infrastructure to use in their agricultural process and in the agricultural business. So the government also needs to aid by developing infrastructure in the area so that farming becomes viable and becomes profitable instead of just giving the land to the farmer and ignoring the farmer. At the end, we have not solved the problem. The very same people will still move out of the rural areas. So there are other initiatives that you can also come forward with, which are relevant to the support of the farmer after land restitution. Right. Let's move on and look at the next question. We're moving on to question number 1.4. Right. Refer to the urban profile depicting urban land use zones and photographs showing urban land use below. Right. That is the urban profile. We can see that from the tallest building at D, the height of the buildings are declining as we go to the outskirts, where there's the rural urban fringe at E, and B is showing us that that is a high income area. Then we also look at the left-hand side. We see from the CBD, the buildings are declining, going downwards until we get to the heavy industries at A, at the end there. But let's try to use that urban profile to answer the questions. What is an urban land use zone? What is an urban land use zone? We're just going to define it generally. Right, number 1.4.1. What is an urban land use zone? When we're talking of a land use zone, we are saying it's a section of the urban area of an urban settlement with a specific dominant function It's a section of an urban area that accommodates a specific dominant function, which means in that particular area, there is one activity that dominates in the particular area. For example, we can talk of a residential zone, which means that area is for housing. That is the dominant activity that is happening there. Or if you can talk of industrial, it's a zone, which means that area is specifically for manufacturing process. Those are typical examples of land use zones. So we are saying it's a section of the urban area with a specific dominant function. That is definition in symbol terms. Right, we'll move on to the next question. The next question is saying, name 2 urban land use zones where commercial functions are mainly found. Where do you find commercial functions in the land use zones in an urban area? Right, we might find them in different zones, but mainly when we're talking of commercial, the dominant one, that is number 1 form 2. When we're talking of commercial functions, we're talking of business functions. Right, so commercial functions, the main land use zone with commercial functions is the central business district, or in short, the CBD. That is the one that accommodates most of the commercial activities. Then you can also look at other sections of the urban area, like the industrial. You also find commercial activities there. It's manufacturing for business purposes. Industrial zone, whether it's heavy or light industrial zone. And also sometimes you can also talk of the outlying business district. Because of decentralization, we tend to find that some commercial activities have moved out of the central business district and have gone to the outlying business district or the office parks, where we also find commercial activities located. Those are some of the areas that you can mention as areas of commercial activity. Right, move on to the next question. I'll move on to question number 1.4.3. Refer to the urban profile showing land use zones and photographs that show examples of land use in these zones. Right. Give evidence that the land use in B2 is a high income residential areas. We want to use the evidence here. This is where B2 is. Use the evidence to support that this is a high income. Right. So we are going to use this here, and we are going to use this here. These are our 2 pieces of evidence. We want to find out justification that that one is a high income area. Right. By looking at this profile, we analyze using the location of this area here. If we check the location, we can safely conclude that this is a high income area because it's located away from heavy industries. We see it's located here. The heavy industry is located that far away there. And also, if we check the distance, is also located further away from the CBD. We know that high residential income areas, they don't locate or they're not compatible with the CBD and the heavy industries. They are located further away. And also in terms of location, look at the area E. They are located around the vegetated areas of the rural urban fringe. So for that reason, using our profile, we can justify by the location in relation to the CBD, location in relation to the heavy industries, also location in relation to the rural urban fringe. Then looking at the photo here, we can also try to figure out evidence from that particular image that we have there. Let's look at the nature of the buildings. If you see, we understand that high income areas, there is loft living there. People have got nice and big houses. If we look at the nature of these houses, we can see that these are big houses. And also if we can check around, we can see that there is vegetation all over. The area is vegetated. And if you can check closely, there is evidence of security, secured stands. If you can see that this is a walled unit and this is a walled unit on its own. And also if you check on the size of the land ownership, there, the stands are big. If you check this one, it's one walled-in, which is very big. It's a justification there in terms of size. Look at the nature of the houses, look at the size of the stands, look at also infrastructure around, look at the environmental factor around the area, the environment itself. They are located, remember, in those vegetated areas where there is clean air. We don't have high income areas locating in areas that have got polluted air, but they are located in areas that have got clean air because there's vegetation there, infrastructure is well developed. You look at the nature of the houses, you look at all those aspects. So the justification, you can figure it out from the photo here to justify that it's a high income area. Then, is the land use at A heavy or light industry? We're also analyzing this. For us to find justification whether it's a heavy or light, and also we use this to find a clue. Right. By merely looking at this, we see that there is evidence of air pollution here. And also if we check the nature of the setup here, it shows or gives us a clue that there is bulky business being taken care of here. The nature of these structures, they give us a clue that there is usage of bulky raw materials here and producing bulky outputs. We cannot be manufacturing small products from this whole big outlet here. So the fact that there is high pollution, which is being shown here, and also the distance. Look at the distance from the CBD here. It also gives you a clue. Remember, we said light industrial activities, they are compatible with the CBD for the reason they do not cause high levels of pollution. They cause considerably lower levels of either air pollution or noise pollution. So for that reason, we have activities like clothing manufacturing, shoe manufacturing, we have furniture. Those activities, they are compatible with the CBD. They can locate in the transitional zone and they can not disturb activities of the CBD for the fact that they are not activities that contribute towards pollution. So this is a heavy industry. We can safely conclude that this activity happening here is a heavy industrial activity. Explain 2 economic reasons why this land use, or answer to question 141, is located on the outskirts of the urban area as indicated. Right, we are saying why do we locate on the outskirts? One reason is they cause high levels of pollution, air pollution, and also they cause noise pollution for that reason. And also they need space. The space might not be available, which is not available close to the CBD. They need large space and the space is unavailable. And for the other reason, we can also justify that the activities that happen, much of them, they are high risk activities. and hence they need to locate away. High risk activities, in the event of maybe leakages, maybe they are manufacturing chemicals and there is a leakage, that is going to cause harmful effects on the people if they are located close to the CBD or to residential areas. So for those reasons, that is why we tend to find that they locate away. So for economic reasons, mainly, those were general reasons that we're highlighting. For economic reasons, we are saying one reason is of availability of space. Availability of cheaper land. We can safely say, for economic reasons, why do we have those activities happening away from the CBD? They need large pieces of land, which is not available in the CBD, close to the CBD, or close to the central business district of the town. So for that reason, they have to locate away so that they can access cheap available land on the very outskirts of the city. So when you're addressing a question which is specific, make sure that you relate your activities to the aspect in the question. This question is specific on economic reasons, but giving our justification that this was a high industrial area, we are just highlighting on either social issues or either highlighting on environmental issues. But if your question is like this, it's specifically asking for economic, it means you have to highlight something in relation to the businesses advocating to cut costs and also advocating to make profits. That is where you must link your discussion to. Then why is the land use zone at B2 not located close to land use at A? Land use in B2 not close to A. For the same reasons that we highlighted, why the question is like, why are high income areas? Why are high income areas or the high income residential zone not compatible? Why can't it locate close to heavy industries? That's the question. Why are high income areas not compatible to the heavy industrial sites? So for that reason, we are highlighting reasons which are related to the environment and to the society. Those are typical highlights that you can also give because they cause high levels of pollution, which can be either in the form of air or which can be in the form of noise. And this is not compatible to high income areas. People from high income areas, they want to stay in a safe environment. They do not want to be associated with those pollution activities. And also for safety reasons, people in high income areas, they are concerned about their safety. They cannot locate close to risky areas that can have accidents. Like what you mentioned earlier on, for example, if there are spills from the industrial activity, they might harm the people, they might cause very serious harm. So for safety reasons, high income areas, they don't locate close to the residential, to the heavy industrial areas. And also for the sake of aesthetics, aesthetic reasons, we understand that heavy industries, they are not actually pretty areas to associate with. So for beauty reasons, we tend to find that high income areas, they locate away from those manufacturing activities because those areas are deemed to be areas which are not pretty and which cannot be compatible to people with high incomes. Then we also look at property values. Property values are high and hence high income areas cannot locate to areas with lower property income, lower property values. If an area is close to an industrial area, that is a very risky area, and we cannot expect high property values in such areas. So for the same reasons, high income areas cannot be compatible to heavy manufacturing activities. Right. Then we check the next question. The next question is saying, is question number 1.5, is giving us an insight into the problem of urban blight or urban decay in Windhoek, Cape Town. We are not going to go through the text, but we're going to try to highlight on the questions. Right. What evidence in the photograph suggests that urban blight or decay has taken place? What you can see there as evidence, we're going to highlight on what you can see, visible evidence. We are seeing this drawing here and these drawings here. They are continuing on the building. And you can see this here. There's evidence of some smoke or something that has been bent somewhere there. Right. So there is evidence that we can highlight here, that we have graffiti on the walls. The graffiti suggests that there is urban blight taking place. These markings and drawings on the walls, they give us an indication that the area is experiencing decay. And also we can figure out from what you can see, there's evidence of abandonment here. The area seems deserted. It seems like it has been abandoned. There's no one who is actively maintaining these buildings. These buildings, they might be evidence, though we cannot justify it geographically, that they are illegally occupied, maybe by those Nyaupes. They are just staying there and doing their own illegal activities and doing their drug things there, because there's evidence of proper, there's no evidence of proper settlement of normal activities happening around that particular building there, because of the evidence that we are visualizing on the infographic that we have for that particular picture. Right. Then it says state 2 social causes of urban blight or decay. We want to look at social causes. That is number 1.5.2. Remember, our question is specific. We want to address social causes. 1.5.2. We are looking at aspects that lead to urban decay that has to do with the society or the way of life of people. What could have contributed to the area experiencing a problem of decay, which is attributed to social aspects. So when you're looking at this one here, we can look at aspects like inadequate municipal services. For example, water or refuse removal. How does this contribute? We understand that people, when they are staying or occupying a building, they need to access basic services from the municipality. If the municipality fails to provide such services, it means that people are going to move. The legal occupants of the buildings are going to move to somewhere else better. You cannot keep paying bills when you are not provided with the service. So there's no incentive for one to keep staying in an area that is not having water, not having electricity, where refuse is not being collected. So people move away for that reason. So you tend to find that the buildings will, with time, get to be illegally occupied, because the legal people who are supposed to be occupying those people would have moved away to somewhere else where there's better municipal services. And also we can attribute this to the problem of lack of community engagement. Community engagement, right? There are some communities where people are not worried about their very own community. Each person minds their own business. So without that community cohesion to solve typical problems that affect the society, it will tend to disintegrate the society, and some people will tend to move away from such societies because the society doesn't have cohesion. They do not have one word in solving social problems in the surroundings. And at the end, we tend to find that if people are not engaged actively, then people will gradually move out of the area, leading to the problem of decay being experienced in the very same area. Then we also have typical issues like crime. Or we can talk of gangsterism, gang activity. Right, it's typical social issue which affects many societies. And you tend to find that where we have typical issues of gangsterism, the population there is very low. People staying in such areas, because of the risk that is posed by those social activities, people tend to move away from such areas which are known for being crime hotspots and also being gangsterism hotspots. People tend to move away from the areas and abandon such buildings. And as a result, we have the typical problem of urban blight being experienced in those areas. And then you can also look at other aspects like poverty. Areas with high poverty, people tend to not afford to maintain the buildings for poverty reasons, or can talk of aspects like unemployment. So if you see, the alignment of our discussion here is aligned towards the society, is aligned towards ways of life of people. You must address in the dimension of the aspect asked in the question. Right, then looking at question number 1.5.3, suggest possible reasons why the municipality of Cape Town has not attended to this issue of urban blight or decay in Wynberg. Sometimes you tend to find that the problem of urban blight is very visible to even a person who is passing, who does not even stay in the area. But the municipality will be watching over on a daily basis and ignoring such aspects. What might have been the reason for the municipality here ignoring the problem that we are visualizing on the photograph? Right, so that's number 1.5.3. What might be the possible reasons why the municipality of Cape Town has not attended to this issue? Number one reason, we might say they have got limitation of resources, limited resources or budget constraints. They might be facing budgetary constraints. That might be a typical problem, that the municipality, even though it's willing to resolve the issue, but there's need for financial resources to ultimately renew the area. That will take some budgetary action to be put in place and to try and source for the relevant resources to come out with the renewal process. So we might argue that the municipality is incapacitated financially because they do not have the budgetary provision for such activities. Then you can also look at it from the dimension of they might be competing priorities. It has not taken any action because of competing priorities. You tend to find that sometimes the municipality might be faced with a difficult situation that requires urgent attention. For example, there are areas where people do not have water. They have to channel resources towards those priorities before they look at the problem of urban renewal. So it can be a reason. Or we can look at bureaucracy. We can look at also the problem of, we understand that public institutions are run using a bureaucratic red tape. It's a bureaucracy, it's a long chain of command where decisions take long to be implemented. You raise a concern in society, but the municipality takes long because there is a long chain of command in the implementation of the solution to the problem. For them to take action, it takes a very long chain of command. Then maybe you can also look at historical neglect. Some areas have been neglected from history and still are being neglected. The municipality does not take care of some of the areas. Maybe it's part of the areas which have been neglected from the history of Cape Town. And the history is bearing its legacy in the current years. Right, we move on to the next question. Next question is saying, in a paragraph of about 8 lines, explain the positive impact of urban renewal on the economy of Wynberg. Urban renewal, we're now saying we are solving the problem of urban decay. How can it benefit the economy? So it's number 1.5.5. Urban renewal on the economy. If the urban area is renewed, what is going to happen? For one and obvious reason, that is number 1.5.4, we have job creation. Jobs are going to be created in the area, and that is going to pose a positive benefit on the economy. And also, there will be new businesses, or there will be investments in the area, which is a benefit for the people. They're going to access a variety of goods and services, and they're also going to get them at a lower price because of the variety of the businesses, and also they're going to benefit by getting employment. And also, you can look at improved infrastructure in the area. And also the urban renewal can also result in the multiplier effect. It will also lead to the development of other related businesses. And also can look at increased property values. If the area has been renewed, it means the property values are always going to increase. So you look at some of those activities, or we can talk of increased local spending in the area. If people are now gainfully employed in the area, they are now able to spend more. If property owners are now getting high value for their properties, they're also going to spend more, and that is going to cause a multiplier effect. It's going to cause more production to happen and more activity to happen in the long term. Right. So that takes us to the last part of our first question, which is question number 1. We move on to question number 2 on economic geography of South Africa. We're going to go through the multiple choice question quickly, and we'll move on to the other questions to follow. Right. The first question is saying, dash is a positive social factor of sugarcane production in KwaZulu-Natal. The question is asking about a positive social, which means it's a benefit to society. How does society benefit from sugarcane production? The response is B, provision of employment. Right, number 1 to 212, dash is a negative economic factor hindering sugarcane farming in KwaZulu-Natal. Negative economic factor, which is hindering production of sugarcane. What could be that? It must be economic, and must be negative. So it's lack of access to capital. Right, the next question is saying, 2 advantages of sugarcane farming for the economy of South Africa is, and one advantage of sugarcane farming to the economy is that it contributes to the GDP, and also it leads to development of infrastructure. So our correct response is item 1 and item 3. Climatic factors that favor KwaZulu-Natal as the highest producer of sugarcane in South Africa. We understand that KwaZulu-Natal is on the eastern coast, which means temperatures are relatively higher, and also the rainfall is higher. So for that reason, we are saying our response is item 1 and item 3, which gives us letter C. 2 and 5. The province that produces the most gold in South Africa is, most gold is from the city of Goli, which is a Goli in Gauteng. Though the reserves are declining, but the establishment, according to those who understand the history of Goli, actually it was a city of gold, which means Joburg was developed primarily as a mining town, and the main mineral that was being mined, it was gold. So it's Gauteng as a province. Refer to the graph below showing the number of people employed in gold mines in South Africa between 1995 and 2025. Right. So we are seeing the trend. 1995, our figures are close to 400,000 people. And by 2025, we have less than 100,000 people. Right. The number of people employed in South African gold mines decreased the most between. The most we are saying, where do we have a steep drop or a steep gradient on our line graph? If we check here, we can see that from this point to this point, it's very steep, this particular point here. So what is the time frame? We can see that the time there is around 1995 going to around 2000. So this era here is the one that experienced that particular phenomenon of a sharp decline in the number of workers employed. So it's around 1995 to around the year 2000. Right, taking to the next question, a physical or natural factor causing employment numbers to decrease in South Africa. We are looking at a natural factor causing employment numbers to decrease. Right. The economic factor, the physical rather, or natural factor that is causing a decline here is the depletion of gold in mines. We understand that gold is an unrenewable resource, and the more we extract, the more it gets depleted. So it means the mines are no longer having the same reserves as they used to have in the olden days. So for the same reason, they must also downsize their workforce. Right, number 128, an economic factor that has caused employment numbers to decrease from 2015 onwards. An economic factor. Let's look at economic factor here. An economic factor is fluctuating prices of gold. That is economic. Right, let's look at the sectors of the economy and the contribution to GDP in percentage. Right, it says dash is a secondary economic activity. Which one is a secondary? It's manufacturing. Transport is a tertiary, it's a service. Primary activities accounted for dash of the GDP. We just have to check for primary activities from the table and figure out how much they've contributed. Our main primary activities are mining and agriculture. If we add 8.4 plus 2.9, they will give us 11.3. Right. Then number 2.2.3, dash makes the largest contribution to the tertiary sector. If you compare these two without even going to the table, finance and real estate and construction, this is a secondary activity, so it's not a tertiary. So our correct response is Y. The dash sector was the greatest contributor to the GDP in 2024. We just have to look at 2024 and look at the sectors here. If we tend to find that we have finance and real estate is tertiary, we have trade catering is tertiary with 14 and 31. There's no other figure bigger than 31, which means the highest contribution came from tertiary. Then the sketch below illustrates these are exports and imports, and they appear to be in balance. So if exports are equal to the value of imports, it means there is balance of trade. Right. Number 2.26, a factor that advantages international trade. What factor advantages international trade? It's well-developed infrastructure. If we have well-developed infrastructure, it means we are able to import and export effectively. Tariffs are taxes imported on imports, which means it's a hindering factor to international trade. So it's not a correct response. 2.27. Dash is an economic benefit of international trade. What do we benefit from international trade? We get access to foreign currencies. We use our South African rand in South Africa, but if you want to buy from other countries, we need to have foreign currency to be able to access products. So for economic reasons, we tend to access foreign currencies if you are trading with other countries. Right, that takes us to question number 2.3. 2.3 refers to the infographic below on food security and small or large scale farming. We're not going to go through the text, but it's showing us a mechanized farm here where there is the machine that is doing work on the farm. And also this is small scale where we are seeing manual labor being employed. Right, and also you have a graph here which shows the major challenges experienced by small and large scale farmers in South Africa. Right. Define the concept food insecurity. That is our first question. That is question 2.3.1. Right. If you were to look at the concept, this is question 2.3.1. The question is on food insecurity. Can you please note the difference there between food security and food insecurity? Our question is insecurity. So it's the opposite of food security. What do we say about food security? By saying we are secure, it means we are guaranteed of sufficient supply of healthy and nutritious food for a healthy life. When you are insecure, we are saying it's a situation when not all citizens have access to sufficient, healthy, and nutritious food. We are saying there are some citizens who cannot access, who cannot have sufficient, healthy, and nutritious food. We are insecure. That's insecurity, the opposite of security. Right. According to the extract, what percentage of households suffered from food insecurity in 2024? We're told that 25.8 of households faced moderate to severe food insecurity in 2024. So our percentage is 25.8. From the extract, 25.8% of the households, they had the problem of food insecurity. What evidence in the photograph on large-scale farming suggests that it would have a positive impact on food production? What evidence in the photograph on large scale? We want to look at the large scale illustration and try to figure out evidence that that large scale can have assurance that you're going to have food security. Right, if we check here, what can we figure out? Right. This area here, by merely looking at the size, we can say a large farm. Large lands being utilized. Large pieces of lands are being utilized. If we utilize a large piece of land, we are also guaranteed that the output is going to be large. And as a result, we are also going to have sufficient food. So by looking at the land size which is being utilized here, we can safely say because of the large land size, we are guaranteed that this is going to produce enough for assurance of food security. And also we can look at mechanization on the farm. Mechanization, how does it assist? It brings in efficiency. Instead of us resorting to inefficient methods of producing food, we are using machines, which brings in the aspect of efficiency. And hence, we are going to be assured that we're going to have high output because we are doing production using efficient methods of production. And also, if you can check, there might be evidence of irrigation taking place there. If we see those splashes, those might be water splashes irrigating the crops. So with also the issue of irrigation, we are guaranteed that even if there's drought conditions, we are going to still have food being produced. So irrigation, it ensures yields under harsh weather conditions. So for that reason, we can pick those ones as evidences to support that we are likely to have food security on a large scale. It will have a positive impact on food production. We are going to have guaranteed food production on large scale. Refer to the graph, identify two economic challenges that small scale farmers would more likely to experience than large scale farmers. We're just referring to the graph here. Small scale farmers, they have limited access to farming equipment and technology. They only have 19.2, if you can see there, while this large scale have got 80.8. So we see it's a challenge. They've got limited access to equipment and technology. Then also access to finance. Small scale farmers have got limited access to finance. They can only have an access of 6.9, while this large scale have got an access of 93.1%. So it's also unjustified that only 6.9% of the small scale farmers can have access to finance, while it's 93.1% of large scale. And also arable land, they are also limited in their access to arable land. Only 25% of small scale have got arable lands, while it's 75% of large scale you've got access to arable lands. So those are the reasons. Right, let's look at the last question, number 2.3.5, in a paragraph of approximately 8 lines. Explain how these economic challenges identified in your answer can have a negative impact on food production. We are going to highlight and try to explain on the aspects that we have highlighted in the question. And we are to figure out how they can have a negative impact on food production, how they can hinder food production. Right. Our first aspect there, we are saying, we are answering question 2.3.5 is 2.3.5. Right. Our problems is the first typical challenge is farming equipment. Then our other typical challenge is access to finance. Then our other challenge is access to arable lands. So farming equipment, we are saying, how is it going to impact? How is it going to ultimately lead to a negative impact on food production? Without equipment, we are saying the farmers use ineffective traditional tools for production. For this reason, it means those tools are not effective. So they resort to ineffective traditional tools of production, and hence they yield little. And it limits the land size that can be utilized. If we don't have farm equipment, it means we can also be limited in terms of our ability to do farming on a larger piece of land. We end up resorting to subsistence, just farming on a small piece of land, because we need equipment to do farming on a bigger landscape. Access to finance. It means farmers are going to have poor inputs or limited inputs, e.g., fertilizers or seed. If we don't have finance, it means we are limited in our capacity to purchase the relevant equipment and the relevant inputs that are needed in the production process. And hence, it also gives a challenge to productivity for the small-scale farmer. They cannot access finance to buy inputs, to buy pesticides, for example, seed. So at the end, their production is limited because of limited access to finance. Then limited access to arable lands, you can also argue for the reason that the farmers, they do production on arid lands, which are unproductive, or there's less fertile soils, they produce less yield. So for that reason, it also contributes to the fact that we're going to have limited production for those three reasons. By taking it to the next question. Next question is question 2.4. Refer to the extract and map below on the Duet Trade Port Industrial Development Zone. We're not going to go through the text. The map is here of Durban Pine Industrial Region, which is showing the location of Toyota South Africa, and which is showing the Durban Harbour, which is also showing the Duet Transport and the Indian Ocean. Right. In which province is the Duet Trade Port located? For one and obvious reason, it's in the KwaZulu-Natal. Court evidence from the extract that indicates that the Duet Trade Port has a variety of manufacturing activities. We want to quote, this is an extraction question. It says in the second paragraph, the automotive industry would join the electronic, high-value manufacturing, food processing, and fiber optic sectors at the Duet Trade Port. So this is where we get a variety, because one, we're having the automotive, and it is joining electronic, and also there's high-value manufacturing, there's food processing, there's fiber optics. All those, they are found in the Dube Trade Port Industrial Development Zone. That is our quote. According to the extract, why is the Dube Trade Port classified as an industrial development zone? Right. Let me clarify on the industrial development zone for the sake of clarity of the question. We are saying, why is the Dube Trade Port regarded as an industrial development zone? What is an IDZ? So that we can relate it to the Dube Trade Port features. That's the question. We need to first of all understand what an IDZ is so that we can relate it to the features of the Dube Trade Port. So when we're calling of the IDZ, we are saying this is an industrial estate. Meant to produce products for the export market. So for that reason, the industrial estate is located close to a harbor or and an international airport. So we are saying this is an industrial estate, meaning to say we have a number of industries which are located at some given space. And those industries, their target is not to produce products for the domestic market. They target to produce products for the export market or for the international market. And for the same reason, for us to access the international market, we need to use the harbor or we need to use the international airport. So those are the features of an IDZ. How are they related to the Dube Trade Port? If we come here, it tells us that it tells us that the Dube Trade Port is located in the same vicinity as the King Shaka International Airport. 30 minutes from Africa's busiest cargo port, the Durban Harbor. So we are seeing the justification there. It's located within the vicinity, within the surrounding of the King Shaka International Airport, and also it's just a 30 minutes drive away from the busiest cargo port, the Durban Harbor. So for that reason, we can safely conclude that the Dube Trade Port is an IDZ. Then the next question is saying, how did the proximity or the distance to the airport and the harbor favor the location of the automotive plants in the Dube Trade Port? The vehicle manufacturing businesses, how are they favored by the location of the Dube Trade Port close to the harbor? The airport and the harbor. For one reason, we can say, why are they favorable? For one and obvious reason, we highlight that it's favorable, the distance, reduced costs, of transportation. Remember, raw materials are transported to the industries. And the raw materials, some of them, they are imported and also need to export. So for the same reason, we are saying there is a reduction in the cost of doing business there because we are closely linked to the harbor or the airport. And then we'll also look at ease access to export market. We are just located close to the airport and to the harbor, which means we can easily access the export market. We can easily send our products to the harbor so that they can be exported to the international market, or we can send our products to the airport. At the same time, we can also receive raw materials and other inputs that we need to use in the production process Explain how the variety of manufacturing industries in the Dube trade port would have a positive impact on the economy of the province. A variety of industries. We are told of a number of industries that are available there. How would it impact on the economy of that particular? That is question 2.4.5. On the economy, we are looking at aspects like job creation. It is going to contribute towards a variety of jobs being created by those industries, and ultimately income levels are going to increase for the people. Then you can also look at other aspects like contribution to the GDP. Those industries are also going to contribute towards the GDP of the economy of the area. And also, we can look at the economy of the province is also going to benefit in terms of infrastructure development. They're also going to benefit in terms of infrastructure development. And then the province is also going to benefit in terms of tax revenue. From those businesses operating, they're supposed to pay taxes. And also, it is also going to lead to the multiplier effect. In the province, the development of related industries, they're also going to develop because of those industries. Then the economy is going to benefit in those dimensions. But that does not sum up all the benefits. There are other benefits that you can also highlight, which come with the development of that particular industrial site, and ultimately how it is going to impact on the economy of the whole province. Right. That takes us to the question coming is question 2.5. Refer to the infographic below on the informal sector. It talks about the informal sector and it gives us a picture of the products that are sold by the informal trader on a main road in Richards Bay. First question is saying, what is the informal sector? What is the informal sector? Right. When we're looking at the informal sector, remember we're looking at something which is not recognized by the authority. When something is informal, we understand that it's not something which is to the recognition of the authorities. It's not something that is legally recognized. It's informal, it's happening in the underground economy. And for the same reasons, the informal sector, we are looking at those businesses who are unregistered. They fall part of the informal sector. So it's a section of the economy, or we can say there are economic activities that involve businesses which are not legally recognized, and those businesses are unregistered, and those businesses, they are not liable to pay taxes. For the reason that they are not registered, it means also that they do not contribute towards the tax base or the tax revenue. So we are just going to define this in most simple understanding. We're just going to define it in the general geographical sense. So that is question number 2.5.1. 2.5.1. Now looking at the informal sector, we are looking at that section of the economy comprising of businesses that are not legally recognized, or can say they are unregistered. And for that sake, they do not pay the corporate tax in this instance. We are referring to the corporate tax for businesses. And then the next question is saying, Why is the informal trader in the photograph found on the main road? He's saying an informal trader on main road. Why are they locating on the main road? The reason is access to the market. They locate in these areas for customers. They can't locate anywhere else where there are no customers. They want to locate where there's most convenience in terms of their potential market. They want to locate in areas where they can easily sell their products. So the potential markets are people using the road. So they locate exactly where their potential market is located. There's no reason for an informal trader to locate away from the main market because there's no one who will bother to look for the informal trader to buy something. Those products that they sell, they mainly sell convenient products like the fruits and the veggies. Those are conveniences, the low order goods. So you must locate as close to where you find your market as is possible, not locating away because no one is willing to travel a distance to go and buy apples. Right. The next question is saying 253, state 2 challenges that this informal trader is likely to experience with the type of goods being sold. The question is specific with the type of goods being sold. The challenge is what type of goods are being sold. We are told here that this informal trader is specializing in fruit and also in vegetables. So the question is, in other ways, looking for typical problems for a person who is trading informally and selling that kind of product. What typical challenges? Right. One typical challenge here, we might talk of these products are perishables. 253. They're perishables. Implying that if they are not bought at a convenient rate, they are going to go bad. And hence, or they're going to rot. They are going to experience losses because they are dealing with perishables. Typical problem with perishables means if they do not get sold and get cleared and you don't have proper facility to store them, they will get bad and ultimately it's a loss for the trader. And also, we can look at other aspects like competition from established businesses. You tend to find that these small scale traders, they go and buy from the big businesses and then they break the bulk. But the problem here is those big businesses can afford to sell those same commodities like the vegetables and the fruits at a very low price compared to the informal traders on the streets. That is why you tend to find that they adjust their working hours so that they can also get customers when the formal businesses are formally closed or before the formal business is open. That is why they adjust their working hours so that they will also get customers when the formal businesses are not operating or are not functional. And also that's the reason that they offer convenience by locating as close to the customer so that they can try fight competition from established businesses who sell the same typical perishables. And also the other challenges of storage. They have a challenge with storing those commodities. We know that we need some refrigerated containers, which they might not have as they are selling. They will end up exposing those veggies to the open sun, the fruits to the open sun, which will also speed up the rate of them getting bad. So because of absence of storage facilities, also a challenge that they're going to face with the nature of their typical product that they sell. Refer to the table, account for the large number of informal traders during the month of December. If we check here, we have 35, 22, and in December we have 60, which is the highest number. Why are there many informal traders in the CBD in December? That's the question. For one reason, that is number 2.5.4. December being a festive season, it implies that there is high demand for the products. Everyone is in the festive mood. It's December and people are willing to spend. So for that same reason, we tend to find that there will be high demand for the products, and hence the number of potential businesses who are going to sell their products will also increase, because they are sure that they will also get some sales from the large numbers of people who will be in the festive mood. And also, we can also argue in another dimension that some people, some formally employed people, engage in informal trading during their work off season. We tend to find that there are some people who are employed in the formal sector, people who are formally employed. They will be going to work throughout the year, but in December, we understand that people will have some form of a break. And those people, some of them, they will also join the informal sector. That is why the numbers are tending to increase in December, because it's some sort of a work off season. And people will have time to also join businesses in the informal sector. So for one reason is because of the increased demand, the potential business people will increase because they are sure that there's a market for their products, and also for the other reason that some people who are coming from the formal sector, they also join in the trading in the informal sector for December during their off work season. Right. Then the next question is saying, how will the municipality of Richards Bay benefit by issuing permits to informal traders? If they issue permits, how are they going to benefit? They are going to benefit, that's number 2.5.5. One, in the dimensions of tax revenue. Remember, the informal traders are not paying tax. If they register them and give them permits, they are liable to pay taxes. And hence, tax revenue is going to be realized. And then also for regulation and control. They are going to be effective in regulating and controlling the activities of informal traders. If they are registered, they know the stipulations of the law and what they must do and not do. They are entitled to some working hours, which means that it will be easier for the municipality to have control over the activities happening in the urban areas. And also, we can look at the benefits of public health and safety. Improved public health and safety. We understand that there are some standards to be met for one to be given an operational business permit. So for that reason, it means they must meet the criteria, the minimum criteria requirement for them to be granted with a permit. So for that same reason, it means they will conform to the health standards and the safety standards, which means it is also going to be a benefit. And overall, you can look at economic development. The municipality is going to realize benefits of economic development. If there is a big tax base, and hence that tax money is going to be used to finance activities in the municipality's jurisdiction area, and hence we are going to realize positive results in the overall economy of the municipality's area of jurisdiction. Then moving on to the next question, which is question 2.5.6. What can the municipality of Richards Bay provide to the informal traders with the money collected from the issuing of permits? What can they provide? We are seeing that there is a rationale for them to issue permit. There is a valid reason for them to issue the permits to the informal traders, but that money must be used in a sustainable way to benefit the provision of some requirements for the registered people who are now shifting from being informal and are joining the formal sector because they've been issued with the permits. What can they issue? That is question 2.5.6. Right, you can look at, they can issue secure trading spaces, or can talk of them as the market stalls for the people to operate from. Remember, the informal traders are exposed to harsh weather conditions because of lack of infrastructure where they operate. On a sunny day, they are operating in sunny conditions. On a rainy day, they are operating in rainy conditions. On a cold day, they are chilled in the cold weather. So the government or the municipality in this instance must secure a trading space for them and ensure that they have got proper market stalls. And also they can use the funding to training and support for business skills. Remember, some of those people were just doing business from a general perspective without any business skills and how to manage and run their businesses. They need to be equipped with the knowledge and the skills. Then they can also use the funding to improve infrastructure. For example, storage facilities for their waste, they must be provided with storage facilities and also with sanitation. They must get access to proper refuse removal, proper water facility, proper toilet facilities. All those must be provided using that funding. And also, they can also provide affordable financing options. Low-cost loans to the traders. Some of them, they lack adequate capital. They need to be supported so that they run viably. So they need to be supported in that dimension of financing. So the municipality can also use that money from the permits to offer affordable loans to the potential registered business people. Right, that takes us to the end of section A, which is our theory section. We need to move on to our map work. Our map question is based on the map from Mpumalanga, which is Emalahleni Wheat Bank. The map information is provided. We need to go to the questions. You would be driving in A or N, which direction on the main road from F in block C3 to Glen in block A5. We are looking at the topographic map. Which direction will be moving from F? We are going via the main road to Glen, River Glen. Here to this farm from F along the main road. This is our road here. Which direction is this direction going to Glen Farm? If we are to draw our canvas here at F, we are moving from F and we want to go to Glen Farm. Your north is always there, your west to the left, your east, your south here, which means we are going in the northeastern direction. So our correct response is northeasterly. That is the direction. Refer to the orthophoto map, calculate the area of the demarcated feature 6 in block B4, C3 and 8, and C4 in square meters. And we are told that the breadth of the area is 1.8 centimeters. This is an extraction from an orthophoto map. Right, we are looking at this area here. This is the demarcated area, the red demarcated area labeled 6 on the orthophoto map. We can see the demarcation there. Right, we are told that the breadth has already been provided for us as 1.8 centimeters. So what you need to do is to measure the length here. Right, according to my measurements, in as much as I have measured the distance and also in as much as I trust the ruler, I got a measurement of 3.5 centimeters. So we have a breadth of 1.8 and a length of 3.5. Those are our dimensions. So let's come and do the calculation. Let me use an open space. We are saying our feature is like this. It has 1.8 centimeters and it has, my measurement is 3.5 centimeters. We want to find the area of this in area is equal to the length times our length times the breadth. And we want our answer. Remember, our answer must be in square meters. Right. So we are saying our length is 3.5 centimeters. And our width is 1.8 centimeters. Remember, this is an extract from an orthophoto. Always remember to take a note of the map that you are using. It's from an orthophoto. So for the same reason, our map scale is 1:10,000. If you want to convert this to meters, we multiply by 100 for the length. We also multiply by 100 for the width. We ignore this unit because we are already converting to meters. 3.5 times 100 gives us 350 meters for the length. We multiply by 1.8 times 100 gives us 180 meters. We multiply the two. If we multiply the two, we're going to get 63,000. And already our answer is in square meters because you are multiplying a meter by a meter to give us square meters. So that's basically how you calculate. You measure your distance or for the length side and you multiply by 100 to get the actual distance in meters. You are given the breadth in centimeters, you multiply by 100 to get the actual distance in meters. Then you multiply the two to get your answer in square meters. Right. Why is it important to calculate? Sorry, before that, we are going to move to question number 314. Calculate the magnetic declination for Emerald-Lane Wheat Bank for 2025. We are told on the map here, what is the map information? We are told that in 2014, the declination angle was 18 degrees, 19 minutes, according to the map information. So we are going to use that map information for us to get the declination in 2025. Right. It is saying the declination angle for 2014 was 18 degrees, 19 minutes. So it's 18 degrees, 19 minutes for 2014. Then we need to find the total change. Total change, we are told that we don't need to go back to the map because map information is provided. Mean annual change is 5 minutes to the west and it has lapsed over a period of 11 years. So our total change, how do we get it? We say 11 years times 5 minutes to the west, which gives us 55 minutes to the west. This is our total change. So for us to get the declination for 2025, we are now saying the angle that was there in 2014, which is 18 degrees, 19 minutes, plus the accumulated 55 minutes over the 11 years. This is going to give us, if we add these two, 19 minutes plus 55 minutes, we are going to get 74 on this side, 74 minutes. And we understand that from 74 minutes, there is already at 1 degree there. We less 60 to remain with 14 minutes. So this 60 here is equal to 1 degree. We add it to the side of degrees. So 18 plus 1 gives us 19 degrees, and the remainder remains 14 minutes. This is our current angle for 2025, 19 degrees, 14 minutes. Why is it important to calculate the current magnetic declination? For the reason that it always changes. The declination always, we understand that the angle always changes. So we need to calculate the current. For the reason that it always changes, we need to find the current. And hence, if we have the current, it means it is going to ensure precise directional measurement. So the main idea is it always changes. For the reason that the declination is always changing, we need to always calculate for the current. Because if we use the one for last year, it's no longer the same because it's changing. Because there's a mean annual change, meaning to say every year it's changing. So it must also catch up with the change so that we ensure precise or accurate directional measurements. Right, we move on to question number 3.2.1. It says item number A, match column A with figures column B We have a golf course, a school and recreation, and then old diggings. What area is matched with area 6? If we go to our orthophoto map, where is our area 6? Our area 6 is within this area here, where we have that particular feature, which is inside here. And if you're not very sure, we relate this enlarged map to the topographic map to see if there is some form of an aspect which is indicated on the element of the reference for us to figure out the area correctly. Like this area 6, if we try to transfer this same area here to the topographic map, we can safely see that the area 6 on the topographic map, remember our mapped area, if we are to find it on the topographic map, it is within the red demarcated area. But because of scale, it appears to be smaller. So if we check around area 6 on the orthophoto map is to the extreme, almost to the extreme northeast corner, somewhere here. It's on the northeast corner of our map. So we go to our orthophoto, we can see around area 6 must be somewhere to the northwest here, somewhere. So northeast, somewhere here. And if we see clearly, there's indication that there are some schools there. And for that reason, we come back to our question to justify. We can see here, but we cannot figure out whether it's a school or it's a church or it's an industry on the orthophoto map sometimes. But there's a school here, and this is a facility, a recreational facility within a school environment. So for that reason, we can safely conclude that it's a school recreational area, area 6. It matches with B. It's a school recreational area. Then area 7, we go to our orthophoto and try to figure where area 7 is. We see that area 7 is in this vegetated area here, which is on the approximately on the mid south part going to the eastern side, from the mid southern part going stretching to the east. This is an area with vegetation, and we can see. If also relate to the topographic map, we can also see that this area is around this area here. And it's even written a golf course here. If you can see clearly, this is an area of a golf course. It's the same area that is mapped on the orthophoto in this particular section here. So we can safely conclude that the area is a golf course, form 7. Right. Refer to street pattern around 8 on block D4 on the orthophoto. Explain how this street pattern will create challenges for commuters. Right. Let's look at the street pattern on the orthophoto. It's street pattern around 8. Our area 8 is around here. What kind of street pattern are we visualizing? If we are to check it there, we can safely see that this is more of a grid pattern. The streets are intersecting at right angles. These are going to the northeast. These ones are going to the western side. So it's more of a grid around 8. So how does the grid pattern influence commuters? How are they going to impact on people moving to and from work? They are going to impact on the commuters. They're going to cause challenge. They're going to cause delays. They're going to cause delays. Where do the delays come from? From congestion at intersections. We know that the grid pattern, it will going to cause congestion, and hence the commuters will be delayed. For that reason, they will be delayed. And for the same reason, again, they will have limited route options. The route options will be limited on these commuters because it's either you're going through the street directly to wherever you're going or you're going lost. So for that reason, it also means that the main problem is the delays because of congestion at intersections. It has many intersections where you need to stop and then it is going to create congested traffic. Identify the land use zone in which the symmetry is located. For one and obvious reason, the symmetry will be located in a rural, urban fringe. That is where we find symmetries. Why is this land use zone suitable for a symmetry? For the reason that land is cheap. And also, there is large space. Right. Refer to the open cast mining taking place at H in block D1 on the topographical map. Let's look at block D1. Area H, we are looking at this particular area here. There's an open cast mine here. Right. Then the question is saying, identify one type of transport infrastructure at the open cast mine. We're just supposed to look and figure out this black line here, which is passing via. What does it mean? This is a railway line. That's the transport infrastructure. There's a railway line. Then what mineral is mined at the open cast? For one reason, Emalahleni is a coal mining area. So that open cast is for coal. And for one obvious reason, coal in Mpumalanga is extracted mainly using the open cast mining method because the reserves are not as deep as the gold reserves in Gauteng. State a physical factor, refer to industries at I. In block C3, on the topographic, industries at I, this is area I, use industries here. What could be the physical factor? For one and obvious reason, the physical factor there is that there is general gradient. Or there is a flatland. That area is flat. That is the physical factor that makes it suitable for the location. What are the economic advantages of these industries for the local population? Economic advantages, for one reason, is job opportunities. People are going to get job opportunities by those industries. They're going to get employed in those industries. And also, it will stimulate local spending. And also, for one reason, there will also be infrastructure development. Any of those and other. Right, that takes us to GIS. We are looking at data layers. There's vegetation layer. There is another layer with non-perennial water, and then data layering. Right. So what is data layering? Basically, layering is projecting, like what is shown there. Different data layers, one on top of another, to show comparison, for comparison reasons, and to show the relationship for spatial analysis. So you are seeing this is a data with non-perennial water, and this is data with vegetation, but they are elevated on top of each other. That is projection, or projecting it on top of another. We are layering, putting a layer, a thematic layer, and another layer on top of the other, so that we can analyze the relationship between those two, can do spatial analysis. Name the data layer B in the sketch B above, as it is represented on the topographical map. Data layer B, we are told that it has non-perennial water. Even if we are to check here on the topographic map, we have this non-perennial water here. What layer does it fall under, a non-perennial water? Non-perennial water, it's for one and obvious reason, is a drainage layer. Right. Redraw layer C in the sketch above in your answer book. We want to now show this combined to A and B. We want to put them on layered. So we're going to take this feature. We're going to take this feature, take this feature, take this one, and take this one, and put them together. So I cannot be as precise, but I just try to give you a sketch. This is the feature to the northwest, to the northeast, like that. Then you take this, and then your non-perennial water is touching here, and it's going like a semicircular. It can go back like that. Then you take this to the extreme end from the mid, plus or minus, it's shaped like this. It goes there. It comes like this. Goes like that. Then it ends here. This is our feature here. Then we take our feature to the north west corner. It must also come here. So basically, that is how the layer C is going to look like. It's going to have all the features combined. The vegetation features from A, we combine them with non-perennial water at B, such that we have a combination of the two. Right. Refer to the open space. Layer C. Layer C, the open space in blocks E3 and E4 on the topographic map. The open space indicates that buffering is taking place in order to limit urban development. Name two pieces of evidence on the topographical map that supports the need for this buffering. Remember, when we're talking of buffering, we are putting a demarcation or we are putting a boundary on some geographical feature. So in this instance, we are limiting urban growth towards an area. We leave an open space. We don't want urban growth to encroach in a given area. It must be left open. So let's check the area and try to find out the justification as to why there is need for the area to be buffered. And we must restrict the growth of the urban area encroaching into that particular area. What is the reason? What's the main argument towards the need for buffering? Right. Let me slightly enlarge my map. We're focusing specifically on this particular area, not worried about the other areas. We only want to focus on our key aspect here. Right. We are saying there's evidence of buffering here. Where are we seeing? The built-up area is ending here. It's ending here. And is not encroaching into this area. There is buffering. There is an open space here. But we want to find justification. Why is there a need to keep this open space here and not let this built-up area encroach into this area? One reason, there are sinkholes here. It's a danger to construct in areas of sinkholes. The infrastructure will sink, the buildings will sink at some point. And there is also subsiding ground, if we look at here. So those typical areas are not suitable for urban development and infrastructure development. They must be left open for those reasons. So if we are to justify, our justification is the area, it has sinkholes and it also has subsiding ground. Those are our responses or our justifications as to why there's need to buffer that particular urban area and not encroach into that open space. It's a very risky area to develop infrastructure and to build houses. Right. With that being said and done, that has taken us to the end of this discussion session. We have safely come to the end of our discussion. So from my overall impression of this paper, I can say this is plus or minus an average paper. An average in the sense that we are looking at the potential of an average learner. An average learner, in this instance, we are looking at learners who score on average level 4s. They have potential to get